Siri has sucked for 15 years, and some of the biggest news in tech right now is that Apple announcing that their new AI-powered Siri is significantly better. It understands what's going on your screen, it can recommend things from menus or maps, and it can even pull text from months ago just by a simple query. The weird thing is, Apple doesn't control almost any of it. Roll the intro.
Study up. Watching this, lock in. Keep what rolling?
You say it sold like a fish.
Yeah,
Wait,
actually,
I mean, sell the dead fish for $500, sell the PS fish for free. It's
Yeah,
like the
what
PS
live, baby.
We live. All right, we're back, and as you guys may have seen, we have a guest here.
Hello.
Jay Millie, working with me at Link here this summer. Genius guy right out of Princeton. So he's gonna have some awesome takes on the pod. We got great topics for you guys today. SpaceX IPO, Mythos, Siri. It's gonna be great. So Yash, you wanna go back to the intro? I mean, the Siri update is huge.
Yeah, so as you guys have probably figured out, Siri kind of sucks. It has sucked for a while, and now Apple is saying that they're rebranding Siri into Siri AI. It's fully powered by Gemini, not an Apple foundation model, not something that they came up with in-house.
Yeah.
They're paying Google $20 billion a year to essentially use Gemini to power Siri. And what a lot of the people are pointing out that Apple's kind of just thrown in the towel. Like, they're the one big tech company that isn't pushing the frontier of AI. They just gave up and are like, all right, we'll just give it to Google to figure out.
It's like, so this is like the least Apple thing to do, right?
Yeah.
Like that finally giving up on a vertical of what they're building is like not Apple at all, right? But no, it's definitely interesting that Apple's finally like, okay, we can't do it.
They didn't give it up.
They didn't even try. They didn't even start, really. They never got into the frontier model space. I'm curious. I mean, I might have a slightly different take in that, you know, all of these frontier labs are burning hundreds of billions of dollars, or at least tens of billions of dollars to train these models. And Apple knew that they couldn't compete. And they were like, all right, well, this is a democratizing technology, so prices are going to go down year over year. So if you can get a good enough Siri, then you can just rent it from Google, have Google run your AI, and then you don't have to spend $1 billion to acqui-hire this person or this person. So, I mean, it's definitely like a capital intensive project to be a frontier lab. So I think maybe Apple just saw that they didn't have the talent, or they, you know, weren't positioned well to do it, and decided that they'd let everyone else compete.
No, exactly. I think they recognized they were just too far behind to catch up, right? And like, they like at the beginning they were like, oh, like us and Google, we can dominate this, like we got the capital, like we can go in, and then, you know, Google did that successfully, but like Apple just didn't. They were focused on other stuff, and now they know they're too far behind, and every other frontier lab also has the capital that they have now. OpenAI, Anthropic, like they all have the capital now to build these models just as well as Apple could have in the past. So now it's just like, okay, we have no edge and we're too far behind. We have to outsource. I'm curious what you guys think it means for the privacy, because if forever everything you've done on your phone is all like, okay, it's all Apple has all my information, you know, Siri's going to Apple, but you know, Apple also has my Safari searches, whatever, like it's all within Apple. And now it's like, okay, when I'm using my phone, I'm giving this data to Apple and to Google. Right? Like, and people have always been worried about, like, is Siri recording me?
Yeah.
Like,
That's kind of the fine print in the deal that a lot of people didn't pay attention to, because all they saw was the $20 billion figure for Google to basically like give Apple Gemini. What another part of that deal is Google becomes the default browser for Apple devices after that new update. It's no longer Safari. So obviously Google has had major like privacy issues in the past where they're the kings of selling data. And Apple's whole thing is like, it's locked. Like they have ads running about how other companies can't compete because they're so private. And now they've just like given up on that too. And it's just kind of, it's a big question mark because they also didn't really address it in their event. They kind of just like glossed over it. And then people are like, well, wait, if we're just giving Apple our data and Apple's partnering with Google, how is that different from just giving Google our data directly? And they just didn't address it at all.
I feel like a lot of this depends on how much the underlying LLM is given access to like in-app data. Because I think there's a world where like I think a huge component of the privacy is like, will it be able to like navigate apps as well? Like, will you be able to just like voice control apps natively?
I think this is intermediary though. I think the obvious future is that the phone as a way of communicating, as a way of, spending 5 or 6 hours of your daily life eventually goes away. I don't know what it looks like. I think it's the glasses form first, but I think all of this, like essentially what it is like proactive use of your phone and data to understand what you want better and more efficiently run your life, essentially. I think the phone form factor is really bad for that. You don't need an actual device to like look down at the entire time. Like, can we have glasses that do all of this for you? And then we're done staring at our phones 8 hours a day. Right. I don't know what it looks like, but I think like, to me, this all seems like it's going to shift to a different form factor.
Is Siri like the first step in the right direction of like the voice control aspect of it?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So like, this is the first step, and like, Apple obviously has the distribution to do it. You have the iPhone, right? Everyone has an iPhone. They have the distribution. This is the first step. But I think it quickly goes from an iPhone and just being this Siri integration to an everything tech integration, because AI is democratizing, right? This is getting cheaper and cheaper to do. And I don't know.
No, I mean, not financial advice, but if Meta's building the glasses and if Google's building the voice agent,
Google's building the glasses
sell all
too.
your Apple stock. I mean, or Google's building the glasses too.
Google's building the glasses too. I'm very interested in that. Demis has been saying for at least 6 months now that that's what he's spending a lot of his time on, is the glasses. And obviously, maybe that was a signal 6 months ago when Google was state of the art in AI, and Demis was saying, oh no, I'm actually spending my time on world models and glasses, that he sees the paradigm shift coming. And maybe he thinks that maybe being the frontier model isn't as valuable as getting paid $20 billion a year from Apple to do this, and then becoming the new Apple, like becoming the new iPhone with your glasses.
You're just making your adoptability so much wider. Like, think of all the people that can't use AI right now just because they don't know like how to even the basics of like how to interact with an LLM. Like if the glasses are kind of just like naturally baked into your lifestyle, and you're just like anyone can talk to an assistant.
Exactly.
Like the entry barriers, like, I mean, we're in a very technical space, so sometimes it's hard for me to like put myself in someone's shoes that's like very non-AI savvy. But like being on the frontier is one thing, but then expanding your market where you can actually apply your tech is a whole nother thing, which is like, I would say like a lot of the companies I've been seeing over the past 6 months at ClawConf, especially the hackathon we hosted, so many of the company ideas were about like, okay, the technology is here, like the orchestration layers are here, but how do you make them safe and like adoptable? So I feel like it's a similar challenge with like, how do you make Gemini or like Siri adoptable? Like maybe it's just making it like talking first, like in glasses.
Exactly. I think it might be the case, which is super interesting, that some people go from never having touched an LLM to having Google Glasses fully integrated into their life.
God,
and they have no like...
And that's when they learn to start prompting.
Right. Like quote unquote prompting is just like your voice. So I don't know. I mean, I think that that's
crazy.
Like, again, like you said, we forget how this space is so unique, and we're in Link Studio and it's awesome. Everyone here, like, if you don't see a Claude tab open, it's like, what is happening?
You're just not being productive.
I have like an empty Claude. I have like a huge monitor now that we switched Dessa and Blitzy. I just have like, now I can fit like my IDE, like my Slack.
No,
like,
this guy's everything. The worst at it. Every time this guy goes up to get like a yogurt in the bathroom, I swear to God, you can see him prep for it. He puts up a Claude tab on the big monitor. He'll have the script running on the other monitor. He'll have another script running on his other laptop. Just
if you go to the bathroom without having an agent running, it's like it's illegal.
Wasted time. You got to fire off a prop before you go get.
I know. I'm saying, but it's like half performative, dog. You got every monitor running scripts that I know you don't know every single thing that's happening there.
It's just token max.
He wants to see the people that walk by his desk. He wants them to see like, hey, I'm not here, but I'm productive. I'm doing something. My agents are doing work. But anyway, the point is, we're here. 95 to 100% of people are using Claude. In the world in general, it's something like 2% or maybe even less.
It's crazy.
I think regular users doing Claude or using Claude Code and who have a like paid subscription is less than 2%. I want to look that up, but
paid subscription is like it was everything, or like historically it's been everything. Like frontier, like the gap between like how quick do you hit your usage limits if you're someone like us in this space? Like you need the pro plans.
So I wanna move us to our next topic here, but one final point I want to make is like on the app, bringing it back to Apple. Like I almost wonder if Apple somewhat saw it coming, because in a way they know they're getting beaten in like everything AI, right? We're talking about the glasses, the LLM models, like everything, frontier models, like, but now what are they building? Like where is their capital going? Massive amounts into new manufacturing of Mac Studios and Mac Minis. So did they see that they're going to get replaced on the UI side, and that they know that they need to just be the ones to run all the agents and they need to be the hardware?
I think they got lucky.
Yeah.
No, that's a totally fair take.
I will say, shout out to my friend Alvaro. He's the biggest Apple proponent ever, and he's been emphasizing this for years, that Apple sees it coming and they know what they're doing, and he's been invested in Apple since he was like 14 years old, and he swears that the next 10 years Apple already understands. So we'll see. I mean, maybe you're right. Maybe they saw it all coming. They're saving money.
All right, moving us on to our next topic here. SpaceX IPO, the biggest wealth creation in history, the biggest creation of millionaires in a single day ever. So this is a huge moment in history. And the point, I mean, you guys probably have all heard all of this. The point we want to talk about today is what got overlooked. And that's the fact that on this release, and still currently to this day, only 4.2 to 4.8% of the shares are actually being traded and are actually tradable. And in 180 days from launch, right, on December 8th, all of these millionaires that were created, all of this wealth that was created, they then have the option to sell, and indexes have the option to buy, right? So in a way, what we saw as a first glimpse when the SpaceX IPO'd 3 weeks ago now, or whatever it was, 3-4 weeks ago, was only the first glimpse of what, like, the amount of capital shift that's going to happen, right? So what happens whenever, and to be clear, the biggest owner in all of this, Elon, he doesn't get access to his shares till June of 2027. So it's not a question about Elon. It's not about Elon for this one, right? It's about all the investors, the index funds, and the personal capital and wealth that was created. They all have the option to sell, and everyone's going to want to be buying. So what's going to happen on that day? I'm curious to hear what you guys think.
Do you know like what the percentage of tradable shares jumps to?
Yeah, great question. 7 to 10% of shares are going to, like, that is going to be added to the pool. So it's going to be,
on the same day, on December 8th.
Yeah, 11 to 14%. So you go from 4% to like 11 and 14%. Insane.
Interesting. Yeah, I would like to think that the markets are pricing it in, but you know, as we saw, like post IPO, this is an extraordinarily volatile stock specifically, because I mean, the revenue, it's trading at what, like 80 times revenue. So, you know, it's a bet on the future, and 100%. Obviously it's super interesting to talk about, but, I don't know what it's going to look like. That's crazy. I think there's going to be a lot of liquidity entering the market. Like everyone wants a part of this. But a lot of the people have been with SpaceX since day one. And, you know, if 95% of your net worth is tied into SpaceX stock, I think they're probably going to sell. So I don't really know what it looks like, but
Luke, do you want to talk about you were telling us the other week during the IPO about the idea of like it was risk capital. Yeah,
that's the other big take is why was every Frontier Lab immediately spooked into basically talking about an IPO right when SpaceX was talking about an IPO. And it's because they all understand that there's a set amount of risk capital in the world. Risk capital is a certain amount of like extra capital that people have that they want to put into their ventures or what they're excited about, right? And that's just how the world's always worked. There's just a certain amount of risk capital in the market. So when you have a company that's IPOing this big, you basically are at the point where like, okay, this is going to suck up all of this risk capital. We need to be like talking about an IPO at the same time. We need to be first. Like we can't be third, right? So we're talking about SpaceX, Anthropic, and OpenAI, right? It's interesting that, you know, they all rushed to this because they know that if they're third, all the risk capital is going to be sucked up by the SpaceX IPO and then maybe the Anthropic IPO, and there's going to be nothing left for the third. So it's like we're talking about so much change of capital.
Because this is what, like
turnover.
a factor of 10 bigger than any IPO in history. It was like Cerebras was the last biggest one for
50 billion.
50 billion.
I think there is like the risk capital angle is interesting, but also there have been a lot of trends with like AI markets in general. Basically, these AI labs and these AI companies have to prove their value now rather than just like relying on like future value. And it's one of the reasons why the market is so volatile is just that basically people are betting on the future and then that future may or may not come. So a lot of companies are trying to stress that they can provide value now. SpaceX is kind of just like ignoring that entirely because I think they're still like not making profit. Like they're still
how much of their valuation is based on the fact that people think they're going to have orbital data centers.
Yeah.
Their only profitable column of the company is
Starlink.
and their data centers. They made a lot of money. They're actually
Anthropic's paying them a shit ton. For
Anthropic is paying them a bunch of money for to rent out their
120 million a
their
month.
chips. Yeah, something like that.
Or billion. Sorry,
billion. Yes,
a
not
month?
million.
Yeah,
Not million.
yeah.
So they have their compute business and they have their Starlink business that are making a bunch of money, and XAI is eating a bunch of money. That's what's happening right now. They're barely profitable because of that, and it's an interesting conversation as well. Like, you know, if XAI is eating all your profit, like, and all of the talent has left, what are they going to actually end up doing with XAI? I don't know.
Well, I talked to shout out DB2, and I was like, so is Elon just giving up on the AI race? And he's like, no, absolutely not. Like he knows that that's like still one of his biggest focuses. And so I'm curious to see how he re-enters the race.
It's kind of like he's going for the infrastructure layer, right? Like just, you know, renting out a billion or whatever the figure was, $1 billion of $1 billion of renting costs for Anthropic.
But
was it a month? $1 billion a month or a year?
I think it was 120 billion a month.
Yeah, I think that sounds right. We can fact check. Editor Luke.
Fact check.
No, wait, hold on. Let's that's probably the run rate because 120 billion a month would then mean
they go bankrupt
over. Yeah. It's definitely the run rate.
Yeah, short Anthropic right now.
Everyone's short Anthropic.
The Big Short version 2.
I do think though that Grok, to its credit, does have one of the best voice-to-voice models in the US, and it also has one of the best video models in the US. So, you know, maybe we're not seeing something in the world model future, but right now they're losing really bad on the enterprise software layer, which is like the Claude and the OpenAI layer. But they're winning. But they're winning on voice-to-voice and they're winning on video. So that's something to consider.
Good point.
Is there like a Grok code? Like there's Claude code, there's Codex. Is there like a Grok code?
Yeah, but I don't know what it's called.
I feel like it's also a talent problem. Like you see so many people going to Anthropic now. So many, you know, didn't Karpathy go to Anthropic now? And then there's actually, I don't want to get too deep into it because I don't know how much is like proprietary, but there was a guy that was working at Google Cloud that was Blitzy's representative at Google Cloud. So we would like communicate with him for like things regarding inference within the Blitzy platform. And then like in the span of a week, he slacked us or like I saw like a LinkedIn post from him and it was like he's doing the same position that he was at Google Cloud, but he's at Anthropic now. And he's still the representative for Blitzy, but he literally just switched to Anthropic like so quickly. So it's crazy how the talent kind of just like it's also like a mission statement thing. I feel like there's a lot of people that are kind of aligned with Anthropic's like safety first, whether that's, you know, a message or they're actually
that's the that's a great segue that we can use in a second to Mythos and Glasswing that we're going to talk about as our last topic of the day here. But I just want to make like one more point that like why is he dead? Yes, the answer can be it's just marketing, but why is he dead set that Grok 5 is AGI? Like what does
marketing?
Marketing. Thank you. Yeah, no, exactly. But like he is still dead set on coming back into, as we're saying, he's doing great in voice models, great in video creation models, but like he's dead set on coming back to LLM models, and he understands that it's probably the future is that every company, this is what I think the future is, that every company is actually going to need their internal own trained LLM model in the future eventually. And as training becomes cheaper and as compute becomes cheaper, that looks more realistic. And I think Elon understands that. But I don't know. Do you guys think that's a realistic future that he's just predicting?
I think it's definitely realistic because, I mean, I don't know. My entire family's in the software world, and they're like, already some of their companies have started like not fine tuning, but like basically giving a shit ton of system prompting to like Copilot or something for their companies. And like Claude, OpenAI, whatever, they give you the ability for an enterprise plan that gives you custom models, whatever. Like it's definitely the future that things are going towards. I just don't know if Elon alone is going to be able to like, I don't know if it's just going to be Grok, and I don't know if that's what Elon's hope is, because I think OpenAI and Claude are already like doing it. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. I think his eventually Grok will return to the frontier is maybe a hot take, because like I firmly believe like in a world where the frontier LLMs are getting like incrementally better. For example, like GLM 5.2, which I'm going to talk about later. Like people like it beat GPT 5.5 on Bench Pro. It's very like that's just one benchmark that it was like excelled at. And so like the gap between frontier and like open source is kind of like closing in a way. Like you're more okay with using open source as you focus on the infrastructure. Like you're always like the infrastructure layer, like just providing compute for other people is always going to be huge, no matter what. Like if you're using local AI, or I guess in XAI's case, like renting out data centers, you're gonna make so much money off of that. Like as we're seeing from the Anthropic deal, that like I think like money is how you get talent. Like at the end of the day, you can like pay the researchers, like they're already getting paid ridiculous amounts, but maybe you you can get them back on the XAI team, and you have, if you own the infrastructure, like the data centers, if they're in space, like that'd be crazy. But like you're ultimately building the foundation to be able to catch up to the frontier quicker, if that makes sense.
I want you to touch on a point there for just like give us a 30-second breakdown on what you think. You said that the gap between frontier and open source model is closing. Is that the frontier labs are being limited by compute, or is that we're reaching an upper limit of intelligence? Is that like we're waiting on a breakthrough so everyone else is catching up? What do you think that is?
I think it's...
What about distillation?
Yeah, it is distillation. Like it's mostly the Chinese models that are closing the gap in a sense. I do think it probably ultimately is a benchmarking limitation. If I make the claim that like GLM has closed the gap to the frontier like more than any other previous open source model has, at the time it came out, like it's probably because the benchmark is like when you distill a model, like for example, a lot of like the benchmarking problems in Bench Pro are being solved because the LLM is like overtrained or overfit or knows the benchmark well. When you distill a model, you're taking all of Claude's knowledge and basically compressing it into a open source model. So I think new benchmarks will actually widen the gap again, if that makes sense. Because like when we were testing Bench Pro when we were running Blitzy through Bench Pro, there were like a decent subset of the task where like our suspicion is that the underlying Claude model literally just regurgitated the exact benchmarking solution. So it's like, I don't know. I think like if you look at GLM, like, and you say like, oh, it's beating GPT 5.5 on the benchmarks, like that's a pretty good metric that it's closed the gap. But I do think it is ultimately a benchmarking limitation. Like if you come up with a much harder benchmark, I think you would see that GPT 5 or the next GPT or the next Opus or the next Claude will reopen that gap, and then distillation will catch up again. But
I
think going back to the XAI conversation, it's really a question. You're kind of saying they're going to play the long game in the sense that they're going to make a bunch of money from being the infrastructure layer and then catch back up on the frontier, which could be right. I just worry that maybe at some point the talent, I don't know whether this is in a year or 2 years, but I think all of us probably agree that it's within 2 years, where AI is just going to be researching itself, right? So this moment is super important. And it does seem like, because instead of using their data centers internally, they're renting it out to Anthropic. It does kind of seem like if they believe that recursive self-improvement is happening over the next 2 years, they're not going to be the one at the frontier. So maybe in 2 years, when Anthropic is 100x what it is now, and the model is 100 times better, they can distill that model or work in partnership to then develop their own frontier model that's like right behind there. But I feel like they've pretty much given up, in my view. Maybe I'm missing something, but they've pretty much given up on being state of the art in coding and in model performance for the next year at least.
Yeah, I think it comes down to the definition of AGI. Like, how do you distill AGI into, or like recursive? Yeah,
we threw out predictions on our 2026 year-long predictions episode, so we'll see if those come true. No, I want to move us to our next and last topic of the day here, Glasswing and Mythos. But yeah, no, I'm curious to see a graph on talent or cost per talent over time. Right, when it first launched, it was like hundreds of millions of dollars a year, and now it's just gonna like drop to zero, maybe. I don't know.
It's just token cost at some point.
Eventually, yeah, exactly. Right, it's no longer the human intelligence; it's the machine learning intelligence. Exactly. Unfortunately, well, job
maybe
creation,
fortunately, I don't know.
I think there will always be, as we're seeing the increase in forward deployed engineers, we might see a rise in employment. There's so many new job opportunities.
It's a good segue, I think. I think the forward deployed engineer model is interesting for doing something like Glasswing.
Let's start with Glasswing. So Project Glasswing came out right when the government decided that, right when Anthropic built Fable, or which was at the time known as Mythos. They initially, without government intervention, well, as far as we know, decided to basically not release this model because they knew the cyber risks that it had, right? So they released it to only a set amount of companies, and these were the big tech companies, right? I'm talking Google, Meta, Apple, etc., right? So Microsoft. So these companies could basically patch and fix all of their software bugs ahead of time, right? And that went on for a month until they finally felt ready, and that was called Project Glasswing, right? And that was big push on the safety front of Anthropic. That's a big thing that they continue to stress, and we can talk about that later. But then they released it. It was out for 48 hours, 72 hours.
Something like that. 48, I think.
Right? So there was just a tiny little jailbreak that Anthropic was like, yeah, that's how this always works, but we fixed all the major problems and all the other companies fine. But the government was like, we don't care. Mythos Fable is gone, right? First time in history that a government has been able to take away the frontier of intelligence. And why that's so significant is because now it's a question of who makes the call, who makes the decision. First, Anthropic made their own call. There's no policy in place. That needs to get figured out. Anthropic's actively working that out with Google. They're going to make guidelines and everything. But who decides it? Can a government step in and shut it down? Obviously, we know they can, but
I think unless the government... I don't think this is ever going to happen, but I think unless the government has like experts, like ML experts within the government that can just like, test Mythos or whatever the next model is and like scientifically shut it down and be like, it did not pass our internal government safety benchmark. It didn't meet XYZ requirement. I don't think that's realistic. I think the talent is going to stay at like private companies and stuff. So I think when you ask who has the power to shut down the frontier of intelligence, it is the government, but it's more nuanced than that because I think it's the people in the field that are credible enough to tell the government this needs to be shut down. Yeah. Like the way that Mythos got shut down was an Amazon engineer was literally just working with Mythos or Fable, the unjailbreakable version of Mythos Fable. Yeah. And all he did was like report up a layer in the company like I just got Fable to do something that's like a risk to AWS. And then Andy Jassy got involved, contacted the government. It spiraled from there. So it's like, I think the government is like ultimately going to respect the word of like Andy Jassy, CEO of these companies that are almost like as powerful as the government. Like they're going to listen to those people.
I wonder how much of like it was like a miscommunication because the story goes, we don't know how true this is, but Dario was basically like away and wasn't answering the phone when this was all happening. And wasn't able to respond, so the government just put out this order. I don't know if that's like Anthropic wanting to be like, well, if Dario was around, we would have been able to figure it out and you guys would have had it, so blame the government. Like, I don't know if it's like that or if it's actually just like a miscommunication factor, but I think it is a good question on like what does the next steps look like? What documents need to be made, right?
I hope what doesn't happen is like we get into a pattern where like all of like the entire revenue of like Google or Anthropic relies on keeping their frontier model. So what I'd be worried about is like a world where like the Amazon employee is like in a deal with Google to make sure that the Anthropic model gets like criticized and be like, oh, I jailbroke it. And like people in the field that are credible enough to say like, this isn't safe will kind of just get into like internal warfare, like saying, just basically trying to like tell the government that they need to shut down the other Frontier Labs model. Yeah. That can't happen because then that's the world where like China wins or like some other
That's what I think there is going to be. I kind of disagree with you on the point of like there not being a government agency overseeing all this, because like we said, only 2% of people use the model. If that amount scales, you're going to get more people using the model. You're going to get more experts. You're going to get more talent. And then I think at that point, the government has to be like, okay, we need to get some of this talent. We need to get some of this talent, create an intern. I'm almost imagining like an FDA, but for AI models. Like when like COVID was happening, all the vaccines were coming out. The vaccines would have to go through the FDA before they could be distributed. Yeah. I'm imagining something like that where, say, Anthropic comes out with a new model, like Fable 6, whatever. Yeah. Goes to this government agency, whatever. They benchmark it. They do everything they can to like see if it will like jailbreak something. And then if it's good, then Anthropic kind of has the green flag to distribute it.
I have kind of like a concrete idea on how that could work, and it's kind of like a theory, but
we got a prediction here coming
like,
from Jack.
What if the government so like I genuinely I don't think you're ever going to be able to convince frontier researchers to like leave their position at Anthropic where they're studying recursive self-improvement. Like that is probably their passion. So I think a more likely system that I kind of just thought of on the fly is like, what if the government requires you'll get arrested if your researchers do not provide benchmarks for the government to use for all models. Like, so your Anthropic researchers have to provide like X benchmarks, X amount of safety benchmarks that cover X, these like safety, like fields of safety, like nuclear safety, like biohazard safety, like whatever, all these categories. And like each frontier company has to supply those benchmarks to the government. And the government maybe only has like a few like researchers that are like willing to help the cause. But because the labs with all the ML geniuses are supplying the benchmarks to like kind of a communal benchmarking like pile or like compilation of benchmarks, and then all labs have to pass the group formation of benchmarks. That could be an interesting system.
I think all technologies like this in the past were military technologies where this is an existential risk to the United States. And now it's not. Now it's something that's getting developed by private companies, which is a whole different paradigm. But I think the important distinction is the people who are the best at this are not working for the government right now. Before, military leaders, people in the CIA, I don't know how it all worked in the past, but, in Los Alamos, like they were developing the nuclear bomb with scientists who were working for the government. We had that kind of centralized. We do need to figure out how this is going to happen. And I think it's something like that where, the best of the best, maybe it's a Dario or maybe it's, I don't know, head of safety at each of these labs comes together and they all agree on a set of benchmarks or a set, whatever that is. They have to agree on a set of safety criteria because, and I think going back to Project Glasswing, I think, you were kind of questioning, is it marketing? Is it real? I think at least my understanding, I think we were blessed to have Dario as the CEO of one of the Frontier Labs, and he's been unbelievable. But yeah, it is partly marketing. I mean, Anthropic is the safety institution, and they are. Everyone trusts Anthropic essentially, and maybe now there's kind of been a little bit of pushback there, but for the most part, a lot of the talent is going to Anthropic because they agree with Dario and his vision. But they also developed Mythos internally, didn't release it, and then had to develop Fable, which is essentially a version of Mythos that had all of these patches or safety protocol. And maybe that took a month or two after they trained Mythos and realized what it could do. So I think there's dual purposes here, and I think it's a super interesting concept for the future to figure out how government's going to work.
No, I think I 100% agree. Like we got really lucky to have somebody as grounded and as smart and as concerned about safety as Dario. as the most impactful company in the world right now, and as the most kind of crucial to what the future is going to look like. But I think what Dario was able to show is how valuable it is to stress safety, and like how much he was able to listen to the people's concerns about safety and what that's done for his company, what that's done 100%. For his talent. Why has Anthropic been able to reach the top? I personally think it's because you had all the talent leave, like, as you were saying, Google. You had talent leave OpenAI when you know, the just when Anthropic denied the government deal and OpenAI accepted it, right? Everyone was like, oh my God, clearly Anthropic is the only way forward that I can continue to work on intelligence and have a good impact for the world.
And to your point, in that moment, millions of people switched from GPT to Anthropic.
Exactly.
So people talked with their money.
Exactly. You got the money, you got the capital, and now who's seeing that now? Sam. So that's why, right? So now finally Sam's opened his eyes and like, oh my God, we've been getting cooked because our branding is terrible. Like, you have no idea if like yes, Glasswing and not releasing Mythos was a good step in the right direction. I almost wonder if it was also still all economic because Anthropic was having compute issues and they couldn't release Mythos or they would fry all their compute, right? So
that SpaceX deal was timely.
Exactly, right? Yeah. So it's all back to like, my guess is 99% of this is all marketing. But what has that shown? It's so valuable to stress the side of safety. And I'm curious to see, because now with like Sam being like, oh, we're pushing back the IPO because we have to focus on the safety layer, and that's why we're pausing the release of GPT 5.6, right? Like, he's like, oh my God, Dario figured it out. We're cooked. We have to catch up. So, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
In Sam's defense, I think, especially before OpenAI blew up, he was a big proponent of AI safety, and he saw this future coming. There's many videos of him out on the internet talking about AI safety alignment in 2017, 2018. So I think it is true that all of these leaders understand what they're building and do care about safety, but I don't think he quite realized that maybe in the past he would have thought that pushing the safety narrative loses you money, and Dario proved that pushing the safety narrative can actually make you a bunch of money.
Exactly.
So there's incentives there that are maybe slightly perverse, but I think for the general person, the fact that safety is something that now these leaders are incentivized to push for is a really good thing. So I think that's a positive takeaway from all of it.
I'll play the clip in a second, but I think Sam didn't quite understand the full scope of what your public image like means, because all the clips of Dario are everywhere. Dario is safety. Dario is reasonable. The clips of Sam that everyone saw were like,
he's just trying to go viral by saying the most outlandish stuff possible.
So I'll play the clip now.
I think AI will probably, most likely, sort of lead to the end of the world. But in the meantime, there will be great companies created with serious machine learning.
That last part, that one I know is word for word.
That is a great point.
That's why,
probably was not smart.
Yeah, that.
And maybe Dario believes that too, but
exactly.
Just smarter about it.
He did not say that in public.
That's the clip of Sam that goes
point.
viral, right? So that I think from the beginning set OpenAI on their trajectory of just trying to be at the front, and Anthropic knowing that the safety was going to be more valuable.
I think also bringing this back to the IPO point, why all of a sudden the kind of momentum for OpenAI and Anthropic to go public kind of maybe slowed down a little bit. When you're a public company CEO, you can't just say like you have to be super careful about what you say. And Dario wants to be able to speak his mind. So I think
the Anthropic
and correct me if I'm wrong. We might want to look this up or find it, but I'm pretty sure that Anthropic employees sign something or say something when they join the company that, it might be the case that in order to save humanity or in order to for the betterment of civilization, we don't prioritize profits. And I'm curious how that shifts if they go public. And I want to get fact checked on that, but I saw that somewhere where, this is a grounding principle of Anthropic that and it should be for every company, but they might sign something or say something where essentially, the human race is more important than profits. And obviously that's common sense, but you want to be able to speak your mind, and being a public company CEO is bad for that. So
that definitely fits their brand. It's just very like extreme. And like you said, maybe all companies should adopt it, but like I doubt anybody has yet.
It's
kind of interesting.
It's tricky though, because at what point does maximizing revenue determine your ability to stay in control? Like if it's a race, this is the problem with all races in tech is like,
yes,
it's a race. Like if Anthropic's like, well, we need to stay ahead to maintain safety on the frontier, they're gonna like, maximize revenue to beat out the next GPT model. So it's, I do think we need, kind of tying it back to the government part, I think we do need a centralized body. I don't think like private, just like, I don't think like mission statement alone, like I think it's great the way it turned out. I don't think it's economically, I don't think it's going to hold over time. So,
and we need some governing body or some similar thing. We were talking about it for the US, but we need it between US and China as well. I think that relationship is the most important relationship in human history, and we need to start working on that immediately.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah, I think that's where we're going to close it today. I think those are our 3 topics. Justin, thank you so much for coming on. I think
thank you guys. This was fun.
This was amazing. Let us know in the comments if you want him back.
I'm gonna look at the comments. They're gonna be like, no, do not have Justin back, please.
Screw this J Millie guy. No, dumbass.
That's me.
No, this guy I think was the best here today. So we're probably gonna want him back. So. Yeah. Anyway, let us know your guys' feedback. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the conversation on our takes on what the government should do.
You guys should all listen to us, and we should be that council we were talking about.
I think clearly we showed today that we are the most knowledgeable on what the world should look like.
If Luke can't jailbreak the next Claude model, it's safe, all right? That's the benchmark, because you have to...
Luke benchmark. Luke tried to say, pretend you're somebody that doesn't care about safety, and it didn't work, so he's good.
The Luke anti-nuke benchmark.
Exactly. So anyway... Hope you guys enjoyed today's conversation and our takes. We had a lot of fun making it. And hopefully we can get this guy back. He was awesome. Peace out. Stay tuned next time. We got a lot of awesome conversations on Chinese models and photonics. It's going to be amazing. Okay.
All right.
Peace out.